Hi, all you sports fans and college football freaks. This is going to be a little solo style podcast for people who aren't really necessarily in love with the national narrative that we get fed daily, weekly, monthly, yearly about the narratives of college football. What's going on, what we see, what we get told, what's talked about, what's highlighted, what's ignored. Being a longtime college football fan and having my team be the Oregon Ducks, it's obviously been a frustrating, time span since there was so much West Coast bias that we had to contend with year after year after year. People not even really giving any type of shine to the West Coast and the development and the performance that has been going on for the better part of 2.5 decades, especially since Pete Carroll came out and took over at USC and really showed everybody that there's a dominance that could be performed and put forth if you have the resources, if you have the money, essentially, if you have the culture, and if you have the talent. Obviously, we all know what happened to Pete Carroll. We also have a pretty good understanding of how Oregon's built their program into a potential dynasty. I say dynasty just because that's, my wishful thinking and hope for the future, given what Dan Lanning's been able to do so far, him and his staff, their continuity, their commitment, their integrity, and their trust that they've been able to build by just doing what they say. That's huge. A lot of people are talking about how NIL has changed everything in the landscape of college football. Very true. I mean, it's a completely new sport now. When you have people that are, getting paid millions, that are 18, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, even maybe 24, 25. We all know that Oregon's had some mature quarterbacks the last couple of years. But we aren't hearing a lot about Dante Moore. We aren't hearing a lot about the other people in Oregon's program right now. And I think a lot of other programs around the nation that are really showing that they have put in a lot of resources and effort to get some proper, successful results. So one of the main things I want to talk about today, and obviously this is just like a solo podcast where I'm coming on and I might rant a little bit. I might pontificate, I might conject, but I also just want to kind of keep it real. I want to be able to highlight things that I want to talk about first and foremost, and I want to be able to engage with people through chats and through social media if possible, about what we see, what we're thinking, what we're feeling, our hopes and our disappointments. So that said, I think this week I would like to start off with that big Ohio State-Texas game. And I don't hear anybody talking about the fact that Arch Manning, his one touchdown pass was an incompletion. I mean, come on. Even, Joel Klatt, Gus Johnson, they were talking about, that's a drop. But, Texas is still ranked in the top, 7? And they essentially got skunked. They got skunked on their opening game. That's not good. It was a horrible performance, and I'm not putting that on. I'm not saying Arch is trash. I'm not saying he's, overhyped, even though he probably is overhyped. He's a Manning. He's got a skill set that most athletes couldn't even dream about having. And he's in a program that is set to succeed. Sark is a decent coach. A lot of people say he's a great elite coach. We'll see. You got to be able to put your guys in a position to win. You have to be focused and dialed in when it comes to game time. If you can't adjust, if you can't scheme, you're not going to win these huge games. And in my opinion, Texas got skunked against Ohio State. I'm not trying to, crap on the SEC. They're going to do that themselves. I mean, we just saw And this has been one of the main things that's bugged me for the last decade plus, is that the SEC was only playing 8 conference games a year. That's okay. I mean, you're the toughest, deepest, best conference in college football, right? Well, how many cupcake games have you guys had every single year that's just giving you guys an extra win? Where the Pac-12 was playing 9 conference games a year, literally getting an extra loss for basically half of the teams in the conference just because they had to play another tough conference team, and or conference game where it was maybe not tough, but shoot, you're playing legit competition in the Pac-12. As we saw, the Pac-12 ended as probably the most competitive and deepest conference in the nation when they were disbanded. I mean, the quarterback play in the Pac-12 is legendary. There's been so many countless athletes that have come out of the Pac-12 that have gone on to thrive. I mean, look at Justin Herbert alone from Oregon. See, a hometown kid. Grew up within walking distance of the stadium, and he came and didn't get a whole lot of, I guess, shine when he was at Oregon because it was a rebuilding program. We were going through turmoil. We were going through coaching changes. And, there's only so much success you're going to have when you don't have continuity. There's only so much potential to be achieved when you don't have a supporting cast around you. And then, he gets into the pros and gets put in a position where he's going to have to start as a rookie, and he just thrives because he's got the talent. He's got the mindset. He's got the skills. And I see that year in and year out. And it's really frustrating being a guy from a small city like Eugene, Eugene is centered around football. We have basketball program. We're also Tracktown USA. But for us, Oregon football is, it's our thing. It's our connection. It's our hope. It is our passion. So I really wanted to see Oregon get into the Big Ten. I wanted to see Oregon compete against other Big Ten teams. I wanted them to get put on that Big Ten pedestal with a chance to shine, to show other teams in the nation, in the South in particularly, that Oregon is a beast, that we are essentially the SEC West, for lack of, I guess, better comparison or description. Well, Oregon won the Big Ten championship last year. Oregon went 13-0. Oregon also got smashed in the Rose Bowl by an insanely talented and stacked Ohio State team. There wasn't much that any team could do against Ohio State when they decided to just air it out and throw it to their super stud, future NFL Hall of Famer, and Jeremiah Smith. I think that was a big error in Chip's game plan when he came to Eugene and they played us here. He didn't want to air it out like that. I don't know if he didn't have the schemes that he was comfortable with, or if they just thought that the ground game was the better game plan to go with. But they definitely knew after the Michigan game that they just had to go to their guys. They had to put the ball in the hands of the studs as fast as possible, as much as possible, to give them the best chance at winning that game. And any games that they played after that, since they didn't do that against Michigan, and Michigan took the dub. They threw down the flag. It is what it is. I understand the hatred and rivalry in that matchup, and being a new Big Ten member like the Ducks are, it's fantastic. It's awesome to come into a conference and see that type of competitiveness, that type of juice for a game, for a matchup, a historical matchup that obviously has implications, going into playoff outcomes and even beyond. Because even after the season's over, Michigan's still stoked that they won that game. That was like their national championship, even though they're no chance to get into the playoffs. They don't give a shit. They're like, dude, we beat up those Buckeyes. That's all we need. Let's do it again next year. And I love it. I mean, that's college football at its best. The rivalries, the fanfare, everything about it is, so unique. You don't get that in the NFL. I think Motor City Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions basically got that type of energy going. They got that swag. They got the juice. They got the support. They've got the energy. They're just all about coming out and doing whatever they need to do as a group, as a true family, to compete at their highest level and, let the chips fall where they may. That's why the Lions have been just dominant. I knew as soon as I saw the Hard Knocks on Detroit when that came out, I think 4 years ago now, I was like, oh shit, this is the best Hard Knocks season I've ever seen. This dude, Dan Campbell, is going to be a beast of a coach. He is a stud. He is a guru. He is a player's coach. This guy, he breathes football. And they had like a 6-game losing streak to start that season, and then went on like a 9 or 10 game tear. And everybody's like, wow, how did Detroit come up so quick? How did they, make such an advancement in their performance? It's like, well, did you not watch Hard Knocks? Did you not see what this guy's building, what the staff around him is building? Did you not see the connectivity and just the raw connection that these guys have? It's intangible. There are so many things that, you cannot buy, but you can build. And that's kind of what we got going on out here at Oregon. So when everybody talks about Oregon buying their players, yeah, they buy players. But guess what? They're not overbidding on guys. They're not throwing double the price at a guy, or double the bag at a young player, a high school recruit, or even a transfer that other schools are offering. They're not outbidding these other elite schools. What they're doing is they're telling these young guys, these young athletes, you have a chance to come out here to Eugene and develop. You'll get paid fairly, equally as, compared to the other teams that are vying for you. But you're going to love it here. It's a great culture. It's a beautiful place. We have all the resources to help you succeed and thrive. And we're going to be here. Our coaches are staying. Dan Lanning, the grass is damn green in Eugene, is the best coaching freaking marketing thing I've seen in the last decade plus, by a college football head coach to try to, just kind of establish some sort of baseline for what he's building at a program. And Dan did that. He is the most genuine guy when it comes to, college football head coaches that I can see. He walks the walk, he ain't just talking. And that trust that your coaches are going to stay at a program, that's priceless. There's nothing you can put on as a value to try to compare that to other programs. There is no other, attraction that for a young guy who's already, he's getting money thrown at him. They're getting money thrown at them from every program that's trying to get them on their team, on their squad. And they're going, yeah, okay, money is this, money's that. Money's not everything. Who are going to be my coaches? Who's going to develop me? You tell me you're going to do this. What's the game plan for me when I get into the program? Okay. Well, how long is that going to continue? Are you going to dip out? Are you going to pull a Mario Cristobal? Are you going to, promise the sky and then jam because you got a fat bag thrown at you? And that happens all too often in the college football landscape. Yet, Dan Lanning's the one guy who has had bags thrown at him, since this NIL evolution has happened, where he's like, yeah, I don't want the bag. I got a great bag out here. My bag's green as ugh. And pardon my French. And that's just so refreshing. I mean, for a family who is trying to see their young, family members succeed in a college football program, and then, potentially build something to go on to the next level, having a guy like Dan Lanning, Tosh Lupoy, Will Stein come in and say, yeah, we want your kid. We really like him. The culture is the main thing for us. And they fit our culture. We have the cash to match the other top programs that you're interested in, but we can promise you that we'll be there. We are going to stay and develop your son. I mean, that's everything that a parent and a family wants to hear, first and foremost, at least compared to, what's the money. So with that said, I mean, why aren't we talking about Dan Lanning's culture more? Why aren't the national pundits, and analysts going, hey, everybody who keeps on saying Oregon's buying their team and it's just because of this fat bag. I mean, Mike Gundy, the head coach of the Oklahoma State Cowboys, famously came out earlier this week talking about how Oregon had a $40 million budget for their team last year. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I think when you add up the athletic NIL and then you add up the salaries of the coaches, yeah, it's definitely in the $40 million range. If we're not talking about the coaches' salaries, though, it's definitely less than $40 million. Otherwise, we'd have heard a lot more about it. And I think, it wasn't cheap keeping Dante Moore on the team in just a, developmental stage. And having him be the legit backup starter for Dylan Gabriel last year. But that was the whole goal. That was everything that the Ducks were trying to do. And if they had to throw a couple million at Dante to sit on the bench, they were happy to do it because they knew they had a guy for next year, for the future, which is now this year. And Dante Moore came out looking insanely smooth when he played against Montana State this last weekend. Dante Moore had almost an 80%, and it was a little over 78% completion rate. It would have been higher if a couple of his guys hadn't just dropped the balls that hit him right in the hands. But that happens. Guys are going to have drops, especially in the first game of the season. Drops have been plaguing the entire college football, scene all the first week 0, week 1. There's been probably more drops across the board than ever before, at least as I can see. And that comes with so many transfers, the lack of continuity with the team, the lack of connection and chemistry with your other teammates. That said, Oregon's got that. I mean, they're building the chemistry. If you've ever watched any of the Ducks versus them, or the building the program stuff that we've got going on, our social media team does, and they put out on YouTube weekly, you would know, it's different here. And Oregon loves highlighting it. They love putting these videos out to show young athletes, this is what Oregon's culture really is. This is what we are building here. And you can see it. We're not just talking about it. It's not just, man, it's real nice out here. Take our word for it. It's like, well, just watch. There's plenty of sources to find out that we practice everything that we preach. And everything that we're trying to sell you on is legit. So, I mean, that's just as valuable of a recruiting tool as you could possibly have. And now you see it. You see the young talent that Dan has accrued over the last couple of years. And these young guys that, we ran over 30, I think, true freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and sophomores onto the field this last week, and just rotated guys out because there was no difference in the quality of athleticism and performance on the field when guys got subbed out. I've never seen that before at Oregon. I've never seen that. I mean, that's Oklahoma style. That's Bama of old, Bama pre-NIL era. That's, USC back in the day. There's very, very few programs that have ever established themselves at that level. Ohio State's definitely in that talk too. Ohio State's been that SEC North program for the better part of 2+ decades. I mean, Ohio State's always been ready to, get their guys however they need to get them. If it's tattoos, hey man, we'll give you some gear. You can swap it out for tattoos, and we're cool with that. That is what it is. And we all know, at least us who are not, Bama homers, that Bama bought most of their players over the last, at least 18 years, at least since Nick Saban was there. He was allowed to pay players. The NCAA, they looked the other way, happily, because that became this huge dynasty for them that they could just milk. It was a huge cash cow. I don't know all the stipulations on who was in charge of doing the oversight. I don't know, who was, I guess, the most willing to look the other way and how that all transpired. But the writing has been on the wall for years that Bama paid players, and they were basically the only team in the nation that was allowed to do that without consequences. In fact, any type of investigations that ever went into any type of rule breaking or violations over, paying a player or giving them any type of illegal contributions never ever even made really basically the light of day on any major media outlets, because Bama just was really good at making sure everybody stayed quiet. I don't know if it was there was an unwritten rule out there. If you talk bad about Bama or if you highlight this, we're going to blackball you from our, media's availability or access. But it does make sense that might have been what was going on. The SEC didn't care that Bama was paying players. In fact, I'm sure that there were some higher ups at the SEC that were, probably telling other programs like, yeah, we're going to be the best. It's okay to pay players. You just don't get caught. We'll try to sweep it under the rug if something gets, leaked to the media or something like that. And, we'll just, everybody knows the South's the best anyways. We can just pay the players a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And, who cares? We're the best. It's like that attitude of arrogance is astonishing now in this new light of day of this new era to think like, wow, when USC was getting national championships taken away from them and Heisman trophies, teams like Bama were being applauded and commended for doing the exact same thing, if not worse, and being dominant, just being that ultimate freaking powerhouse that just can't be stopped and keeps getting the highest level of talent year after year after year while paying players. It's like, come on, guys. The other thing that I really want to talk about this week and has inspired me to start up this solo style podcast is, Arch Manning, he threw an interception. He threw an interception in the Ohio State game. He almost threw another. And then his completion, the only touchdown that Texas got, was an actual incompletion. But you don't hear the national media talking about that. You hear about them, and Fox just signed a new streaming deal with ESPN last month in August. And so now they're partnered up. Otherwise, the Fox analysts and other people would be ripping the SEC apart and pointing out that this catch that gave Texas their lone score of, the game wasn't even a catch. It should have been 14-0. But you don't hear nothing about it, The SEC's still strong. They still got so much to play for this season. They've got so much potential. They've got so much, that they can do to show that they are the top dog, the number one conference in the nation. And it's like, you know what? When you have to be the top conference in the nation, no matter what, it's kind of sad, If you can't just accept the outcomes being what they are and try to get better, try to improve, try to win a natty when the Big Ten's showing that we're, going to be the Big Ten, or we're going to be the natty participants and or winners, in this new era. The SEC is like, well, it's just because we're so good, we beat each other up. That's what the Pac-12 was. Seriously. But nobody wants to really talk about and highlight that the SEC might be like the old Pac-12. Shame. Don't ever, ever, ever compare the South, the SEC, to that conference out west that couldn't even stay together. Nah. It is what it is. But I am thrilled to see that the Big Ten started out strong again this year. Oregon came out looking as good as I've seen them look for a starting game ever. But it's because the talent's as good as it's ever been at Oregon, and the culture's as good as it's ever been. The coaching is as good as it's ever been at Oregon. And we have guys that are dedicated to keeping that culture and building on it, which is, it's so nice not to have a coach that's just looking to get to the NFL, to see if he can succeed there, to see if he can win a national championship there. That's exactly what Chip Kelly did, and if he'd have stayed at Oregon, who knows what the legacy could have been for him and where Oregon would be now. But everything happens for a reason, and I knew as soon as we got Dan Lanning to be our head coach that it was going to be something special, because he was a phenomenal defensive coordinator at Georgia. He came from the SEC. He came from that powerhouse that was the new dog, top dog, at in the SEC. And so when we got him, I was like, well, that's the dude. Literally, I can tell by his energy. I can tell by how he conducts himself, and everything that he has put in to be who he is and where he is, that he's going to be somebody that's going to continue to grow and to try to be the best head coach he could possibly be. And he's got enough experience with the best head coaches in college football to know what that looks like, to know how to do that, to have a game plan to for how to be him and still emulate those other greats. It's not often that happens. We've seen the Nick Saban coaching tree, and we seen how many of his disciples have struggled at different spots. And then you see somebody like Kirby Smart, who was a disciple, but had the resources given to him, had the time given to him to build, and turned Georgia back into a powerhouse, a national champion. A real threat to every single team in the nation. And that's what Oregon is now. So I'm not trying to say that we're going to win the national championship. I would love to see us win the national championship this year. I would obviously love is probably not even it's an understatement, but I'm happy to see where we're at right now. I can't wait every week. That loss to Ohio State in the Rose Bowl hurt my heart, hurt my spirit so much. But it was still nice to see a Big Ten national champion. And I think that we're going to see more Big Ten national champions. So if you have any thoughts on that, if you have anything else that isn't being talked about nationally that you want to try to talk about, give me a call, or give me a comment in the comment section, and I will try to get back at you. Definitely want to be engaging with people who are like-minded, who are or are just completely opposite-minded and need to be enlightened and or have some different perspectives put forth so they can try to reevaluate what's really going on. Because when you are a fan, that's short for fanatic, and that means that you're going to be a little delusional, and that's okay. I got my boys jumping on the couch with me, and they might make appearances from time to time. This is Sammy, and they love watching college football too. That's what we do on Saturdays, man. We cuddle up on the couch and we watch college football. And it's the best thing on earth, honestly, besides maybe snorkeling in Hawaii. Man, college football, when the Ducks are good, it's just like Dan Lanning's comments in all of his press conferences, just gives you the best feeling, you know, and lots of hope. So with that said, I hope everybody stays healthy this week, and I look forward to putting another video up and hearing from you guys.